Imagine going to the hospital for treatment and having your doctor give you LSD and try to erase the memories in your brain. In the 1950s, this actually happened in Canada. The CIA paid for it, doctors agreed to it, and patients never knew. Until it was too late. Welcome to Classified, Hidden Histories, where we uncover the secrets they never wanted you to know. I'm your host, and today we're diving into one of the most disturbing medical betrayals in history, the story of MKUltra, and how America's intelligence agency turned trusted doctors into torturers. The year is 1953. Deep in the corridors of CYA headquarters in Langley, Virginia, a group of intelligence officers gathers around a conference table to discuss their newest obsession, the human mind. They've just witnessed something that terrifies them more than nuclear weapons, the power of psychological manipulation. During the Korean War, captured American pilots appeared on North Korean television, making confessions that seemed impossible. These decorated military officers publicly admitted to war crimes they didn't commit, praised communist ideology they'd spent their lives fighting, and begged forgiveness from enemies they'd been trained to hate. The CIA believes these confessions are evidence of a terrifying new weapon, mind control. They're convinced the Soviets and Chinese have developed techniques to break down human willpower, erase memories, and implant new thoughts. In the paranoid atmosphere of the Cold War, this represents an existential threat to American national security. The man tasked with America's response is Dr. Sidney Gottlieb, a biochemist who believes science can solve any problem, including the problem of controlling human consciousness. Gottlieb is brilliant, methodical, and completely without moral restraints when it comes to advancing American interests. Under Gottlieb's leadership, the CIA creates a program called MKUltra, a massive research initiative designed to develop American mind control capabilities. The program's goal is simple: learn how to break down human personality, erase unwanted memories, and rebuild minds, according to CIA specifications. From the beginning, MKUltra operates in complete secrecy. The program receives funding through front organizations and shell companies. Research is conducted at universities, hospitals, and private clinics, whose staff have no idea they're working for the CIA. Subjects are recruited without their knowledge, or one of MKUltra's most important research sites is the Allen Memorial Institute in Montreal, Canada. The institute is run by Dr. Ewen Cameron, one of the world's most respected psychiatrists. Cameron is a pioneer in mental health treatment, a founder of the World Psychiatric Association, and a man whose reputation is above suspicion. Cameron is also exactly what the CIA needs: a brilliant scientist with access to vulnerable patients and no qualms about experimenting on human beings. When CIA officials approach him about participating in mind control research, Cameron agrees immediately. He sees an opportunity to test his most radical theories about mental illness and human psychology. Cameron's approach to psychiatry is revolutionary and horrifying. He believes mental illness can be cured by completely destroying the patient's existing personality and rebuilding it from scratch. He calls this process psychic driving, using drugs, sensory deprivation, and psychological torture to reduce patients to a blank slate. The CIA provides Cameron with unlimited funding and complete freedom to conduct his experiments. They don't care about his patients' well-being or recovery. They only care about learning how to control human minds, and Cameron's willingness to treat people like laboratory animals makes him the perfect partner. Cameron begins recruiting subjects from the mental health patients at his institute. These are people suffering from depression, anxiety, and other mental health conditions who came seeking help. Instead, they become unwilling test subjects in experiments designed to destroy their minds. The experiments that unfold at the Allen Memorial Institute represent some of the most systematic psychological torture in medical history. Cameron and his CIA-funded team develop techniques designed to break down human consciousness and rebuild it according to their specifications. The first phase of Cameron's experiments involves depatterning, completely destroying a patient's existing memories and personality. Patients are given massive doses of LSD, often for weeks at a time. They're subjected to electroshock therapy at levels far beyond anything used in legitimate medical treatment. Some receive up to 40 electroshocks per session, administered twice daily for months. But the psychological torture doesn't stop there. Patients are placed in isolation chambers and subjected to sensory deprivation for days or weeks. Others are forced to listen to recorded messages played on endless repeat, sometimes the same phrase repeated hundreds of thousands of times. The goal is to reduce human beings to a state of complete psychological dependency. Sleep deprivation becomes another weapon in Cameron's arsenal. Patients are kept awake for up to 180 hours straight, their minds gradually deteriorating as exhaustion destroys their ability to think clearly. When they finally collapse from exhaustion, they're given drugs to keep them unconscious for weeks at a time, sometimes up to 86 days in a medically induced coma. The physical effects are devastating, but the psychological destruction is even worse. Patients lose their memories, their personalities, their ability to recognize family members. Some forget how to speak, how to eat, how to use the bathroom. Cameron has succeeded in reducing human beings to a blank slate, but the cost is their humanity. The victims of MKUltra's experiments suffer in ways that defy description. Linda McDonald, a young mother who entered the Allen Memorial Institute suffering from postpartum depression, emerges months later unable to recognize her own children. The woman who went in seeking help for a treatable condition comes out as a stranger to her own family. Val Orlikow, a member of the Canadian Parliament's wife, seeks treatment for anxiety and depression. Cameron subjects her to months of LSD treatments, electroshock therapy, and sensory deprivation. When she finally leaves the institute, she can barely function as an independent adult. The confident, capable woman who entered has been replaced by someone who needs constant supervision and care. Jean Steele, a psychiatric nurse who suffered a nervous breakdown, becomes one of Cameron's most abused victims. She endures 109 electroshock treatments and weeks of LSD-induced psychosis. Her personality is so thoroughly destroyed that she requires years of rehabilitation to regain basic life skills. She never fully recovers her pre-treatment mental capabilities. The cruelest aspect of these experiments is that the victims sought help voluntarily. They trusted medical professionals to treat their conditions with compassion and expertise. Instead, they were betrayed by the very system that promised to heal them. Cameron keeps detailed records of his experiments, documenting the systematic destruction of human minds with clinical detachment. His reports to the CIA describe successful de-patterning procedures and promising psychic driving results. He writes about his patients' suffering as if he's describing laboratory experiments on animals. MKUltra's experiments aren't limited to Cameron's Institute in Canada. The program expands across North America, involving dozens of universities, hospitals, and research facilities. The CIA funds experiments at Harvard, Stanford, Columbia, and many other prestigious institutions. Dr. Harris Isbell at the Addiction Research Center in Kentucky conducts LSD experiments on drug addicts, many of whom are African American men with limited legal protections. Isbell keeps some subjects on LSD for weeks at a time, documenting the long-term effects of sustained hallucinogenic drug use. At Stanford University, Dr. Leo Hollister administers LSD to psychiatric patients without their knowledge or consent. His experiments focus on understanding how psychedelic drugs affect different personality types and mental health conditions. The CIA also experiments on prisoners, mental patients, and other vulnerable populations who can't refuse participation or report abuse. These subjects are chosen specifically because they lack the social connections or legal resources to expose CIA activities. Some MKUltra experiments involve attempts to create Manchurian candidates, assassins whose minds have been programmed to kill on command. While the CIA never successfully creates such operatives, they spend millions of dollars and destroy countless lives trying. For more than 2 decades, MKUltra remains one of the CIA's most closely guarded secrets. The program officially ends in the early 1970s, but evidence of its existence is systematically destroyed. CIA Director Richard Helms orders the destruction of all MKUltra documents in 1973, hoping to hide the program's crimes forever. But some evidence survives. In 1977, a Freedom of Information Act request uncovers a cache of MKUltra documents that had been misfiled and escaped destruction. The revelations shock Congress and the American public, leading to Senate investigations and demands for accountability. The surviving documents reveal the scope of MK Ultra's crimes. Tens of thousands of unwitting subjects, hundreds of experiments, decades of systematic human rights violations. The program cost millions of dollars and destroyed countless lives, all in pursuit of mind control techniques that ultimately proved impossible to achieve. Dr. Ewen Cameron dies in 1967 before his crimes are exposed. He never faces consequences for his role in destroying the lives of his patients. His reputation as a respected psychiatrist remains intact until the MK Ultra revelations emerge a decade after his death. Dr. Sidney Gottlieb retires from the CIA and spends his later years as a folk dancing instructor and organic farmer. When confronted about MK Ultra in the 1970s, he expresses no remorse for his role in the program. He argues that the Cold War required extreme measures and that national security justified any means necessary. The MK Ultra revelations force America to confront uncomfortable truths about medical ethics, government accountability, and the limits of acceptable scientific research. How could respected institutions participate in systematic torture? How could medical professionals abandon their oath to first do no harm? The program's victims receive some compensation through lawsuits and government settlements, but no amount of money can restore their destroyed lives. Many suffer permanent psychological damage that affects them and their families for decades. Some never learn the truth about what was done to them. MK Ultra establishes precedents that continue to influence government behavior today. The program demonstrates that national security concerns can override moral principles, that classified research can hide atrocities, and that vulnerable populations remain at risk when government agencies operate without oversight. The experiments also reveal the dangers of medical research conducted without informed consent or ethical oversight. The same institutions Americans trust for health care and education participated in systematic human rights violations when offered government funding and immunity from prosecution. Perhaps most disturbing is how easily respected professionals abandoned ethical principles when authority figures requested their cooperation. The doctors, nurses, and researchers who participated in MK Ultra weren't monsters. They were ordinary people who made extraordinary moral compromises. The next time you hear government officials argue that national security requires extreme measures, remember MK Ultra. Remember that American intelligence agencies once funded the systematic torture of innocent people in the name of protecting democracy. Remember that the line between legitimate research and human experimentation can be crossed with a single signature on a government contract. The victims of MK Ultra trusted their doctors, their government, and their institutions. That trust was betrayed in the most fundamental way possible. This is Classified, Hidden Histories, where we uncover the secrets they never wanted you to know. Because understanding what our government has done helps us prevent them from doing it again. The truth about MK Ultra reminds us that informed consent isn't just a medical formality. It's a fundamental protection against exploitation. Ethical oversight isn't bureaucratic red tape. It's the only thing standing between vulnerable people and those who would use them for experiments. In the end, MK Ultra is a story about the price of unchecked power and the importance of transparency in government and medical research. The program's victims paid that price with their minds, their memories, and their lives. The question for every generation is whether we'll learn from their sacrifice or repeat the same mistakes in new forms.